Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jason Williams, and I'm with my tag team partner, Blake Castetter, and we are the Sunday Fun Day guys. Blake, happy Thanksgiving, brother.
Black
Or day after
Friday.
Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving.
What
How,
was that?
how was your holiday?
Holiday was great. Sorry, a little
Yeah,
technical issue.
that's okay.
It was great. We started off the morning with our annual youth football flag football turkey bowl. Unfortunately, my team came up one touchdown short because we threw some coaches in at the last minute for the last part of the game as all-time quarterback, and yours truly tried to take a shot deep, and safety came over the top and he made a
Mm,
phenomenal play. Crosley just got up high pointed the ball, and they drove down the field and won the game at the very end.
man, it sounds like a barn burner. I'm sorry I missed it.
It was awesome. Should have taped
Good,
it.
good. I was going to say, I wish I would have seen it live, but in living color.
If I knew you were up for an 8 a.m. football game, I would have sent you the invite.
To play. I was just going to be a spectator. My playing days are over with. So kudos to all you weekend warriors who still get out there to turkey bowls, but I haven't turkey bowl, let's just say, in a few years for sure. Well, Blake, we are on to week 13 already, man. We're getting down to the nitty gritty when it comes to fantasy, the regular season playoffs, a lot of things going on. Give me some storylines as we head into an all important week 13.
Well, we're already into week 13. What'd you think of last night's games?
Uh, wow. Just uninspiring to say the least. I mean, Detroit was going to win. The Bears blew it. Dallas and New York was bad. And we knew Miami was not going to beat Green Bay when it's 20 degrees. So all those were those were gimmies. Like if you were a bet man, those are all easy money line wins, even with the points.
Yeah. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that we were being forced to watch the Cowboys and Giants.
Ooh, that was some bad football.
They can flex out all the other games of the season, but not Thursday night or Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, everybody talks about tradition. Well, if good, I'm damn tradition. Let's just get teams in there that are going to be good. And I would imagine most teams would love to play on Thanksgiving Day if they could. But we had what we had. 3 games in the books. We got one today. We got the Chiefs Raiders coming up, and then we got a host of games with playoff implications, fantasy players, no buys this week. Critical that you make your move this week, Fanatics, if you're going to make a move in fantasy.
That's right. So, talking about storylines of what happened last week, the only one that we really need to touch on, I think, is the release of Daniel Jones and the signing of Daniel Jones to the Vikings practice squad. So, I mean, the contract they're paying him hardly anything. I think he's looking to revamp his career, but with him being on the practice squad, another team is able to pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think it's worth taking a flyer on Daniel Jones? I mean, if he had ended up in Dallas, I would have picked him up.
You would have picked him up?
Yeah.
Huh.
He has enough weapons there and a better offensive line. I think a better overall team than in New York.
Oh, there's no question about that. I think any team he goes to is going to be better overall. But I'm going to be honest with you. I am way past the Daniel Jones caring about what he does. He's never should have been drafted that high. He was a one-year wonder, and every time a team drafts a one-year wonder, they get burned for the most part. And I just think he's irrelevant. He's going to just float off into the abyss as another quarterback who got a lot of money and then produce anything. That's just my opinion on Daniel Jones. Like there are plenty of other quarterbacks out there. If you can turn his career around, God bless you. That's going to take a lot of work.
It's fair.
So there you have it. Yeah.
So some injuries from the weeks prior. We're already through the Green Bay Packers game. So, Dubs was out with a concussion. Josh Downs was ruled out with his shoulder injury. In Las Vegas, you've got Gardner Minshew, broken collarbone, out for the season. And then breaking news just a few minutes ago, White and Madison also both ruled out. So Amir Abdullah's got a tough matchup in Kansas City. Is he flex worthy in your opinion?
Yeah, you know what? I have a story about Amir Abdul. I actually picked him up the Saturday before Sunday's games, and I played him last week. He got me 15 points. So again, against Kansas City, listen, I didn't start Chuba Hubbard against Kansas City last week. He scored a touchdown. So at that point, if you're desperate, I say put him in there. He's a starting running back.
Mhm.
And when you have an opportunity to get a starting running back season, regardless of whether he produces or not produces, if he has a chance to get carries and he catches the ball out of the backfield a lot. So if you're really desperate, I say pick him up, but I say put him in your lineup immediately.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're just looking for a flex play.
Yeah, I agree.
Out of Washington, both running backs got banged up. Brian Robinson with the ankle, and then Austin Eckler with concussion, which he still is in protocol. But Brian Robinson actually got a full practice in on Wednesday, which is kind of surprising. In Philly, Devonta Smith is still dealing with the hamstring injury. He did not practice Wednesday. And Darius Slay is also still in concussion protocol and did not practice Wednesday. The other big news, J.K. Dobbins with a knee injury, which leads us to Gus Bus, Vidal. What's that backfield look like? Who would you trust if you had to pick one up? We talked about this a couple weeks ago and stashing Gus Edwards because of an easy playoff schedule. I stashed Gus Edwards, so it worked out on me so far. But who knows how long J.K. Dobbins is going to deal with a knee injury? But he has been injury prone.
No, we again, to your point, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and to your point again, we said stash him if you could, and you and I both stashed him in one of our leagues that we're in, and now you have an opportunity to play him. And in terms of carries, we know the Chargers like to run the ball. We know the one thing about Gus, which is different than JK, he is not good in terms of catching the ball. So does that open the door for Vidal? Potentially. I'm not sure how much, but if you have a starting running back or have a need for a starting running back, plug and play the Gus Bus at this point, because he's going to get 10 to 15 carries per game until JK comes back, which again, we don't know when that's going to be.
That's the route I would lead to. I mean, we saw this earlier in the season when Vidal came in. It was the second back when Edwards went down. So I have to imagine that Gus Edwards is going to be the starting back, first down back, second down back, and Vidal will get some looks. What was interesting is they had Hassan in there for a bit after Dobbins went down. He got more usage than I thought he would.
Yeah, that's, again, something to keep an eye on. You have two backs that are injury prone. So who knows what's going to happen towards the end of the year with the Chargers. But again, if you got JK and you got Gus, you're in pretty good shape. Now, we'll have to see on Vidal, but I'm hitching my wagon to the Gus Bus at this point.
That's fair. All right, like you said, no buys this week. So we're looking at a full slate of teams and all the options. With us having wrapped up Thanksgiving and being in the season of thanks, we had a little small segment. You put together 3 to 4 players that we're thankful for from any position so far this season. You want to lead us off?
I do. My 3, I got 2 running backs and a receiver. And again, who are you thankful for, Fanatics? Just think about your lineup at the beginning of the year and think about the guys you have now and how much they've impacted your lineup. And my first player that I'm thankful for is a guy that I drafted, I believe, in the 9th or 10th round. I'm sorry, in the 9th round. And it's Chuba Hubbard. Now, in the beginning of the year, we had no idea what Carolina's backfield was going to look like. We heard of this guy, that guy. We heard Sanders. We heard the rookie from Texas who was now coming back, but nothing really about Chuba. And at this point, or at that point in the draft, I was like, okay, I need a running back. Why not fire a guy that might get played? And actually, if you took him when you did, you probably struck gold. 9th round pick for the most part, 9th or 10th, top 12 running back, Blake. So impressive so far season for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah. I didn't see it coming. Again, we thought split backfields. We didn't know what Brooks was going to be. We didn't know what Miles Sanders' impact was going to be. We've seen what Chuba's done. We really didn't know, though. So split backfields, you take a flyer on the one you think will pan out. And if you can get a top 12 running back in the 9th round, 8th round, 7th round, 10th, hell yeah.
So, for example, I took Tajay Spears in Tennessee, and I got kind of burned on that one because we know Pollard ended up being the man. So, again, we talked about that, and it's going to be that way you're going to have these running back by committees, and you just got to take a flyer on one and hoping it pans out. I was 1 for 2, and I'll take that. But my next guy is Joe Mixon, one of the most consistent running backs, not named Henry or
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley, yes. Why am I losing my train of thought? But Joe Mixon coming off a decent season for the Bengals, now is in the Texans offense that gets him the ball and gives him the ball a lot. And I don't think anybody saw this production, Blake, coming. We thought he would be pretty good, and we thought he would be better than he was maybe the last 2 years in Cincy, but nobody saw this coming. So Joe Mixon, for sure, is a guy that I'm thankful for in terms of fantasy production this year.
I think anybody that drafted him is, because you got him in the second or the third round, and he's a top 5 running back. I think he's leading the league in fantasy points per game.
Yep. Which is amazing considering the other 2 running backs that are out there that we just talked about with Barkley and Derrick Henry. And if you would have said that in the beginning of the year, they'd be like, okay, no, there's no way. I mean, he'll do okay, but we'll see what happens. He's had some issues the last couple of weeks, and teams have started to bottle the Texans up a little bit. So we'll see how Joe ends the year. But for the most part, all year, Joe's been a model of consistency at the running back position. And my last player is Zay Flowers. Now, rookie last year, did pretty good. It was a run-first offense, as we know. We had no idea if he would take that leap that wide receivers do from their first to second year. Well, he took that and then some. And ironically enough, Baltimore's offense is way more explosive than it's ever been. Now, you can make an argument the defense is way worse than it used to be. But for fantasy purposes, the offense has been carrying the team since the beginning of the year. And Zay Flowers has been the primary benefactor of explosive offense.
He has busted out in his sophomore year. What was the old saying? You always wanted to draft receivers that were sophomores. And then, come the Justin Jefferson year, that's when all of a sudden rookie wide receivers were the ones you wanted to target.
Sure. Yeah. So those are my 3 fantasy players, fanatics, that I am thankful for. Now, Blake, I'm looking at your list. It's pretty interesting.
Well, starts off with Jaden Daniels. And why? Because he was my late round QB flyer. When I say late round, it was 10th round. But his success and consistency has allowed me to trade away my other quarterback to bolster my lineup a bit. My second is Cade Otton. That's a waiver wire gem for me. He's paid huge dividends, and at the same time allowed me to trade Mark Andrews at a sell high point after he had a couple of good games, because I knew I had Cade Otton waiting in the backside. And then my third one, I'm going to spin it on you. I'm thankful for Zach Moss and the fact that he has sucked, and I knew he would suck, which allowed my split backfield decision of Chase Brown to pay off this year, because they're using him with a lot of touches, not only in the running game, but also in the passing game.
No, I think let me get to Moss first. I think outside of Cincinnati maybe thought Moss would be the guy, but I think people in Cincinnati knew Chase Brown was going to be the guy eventually. It's just only a matter of time. So I took Chase Brown over Moss. There was no question. Like, he was out there. Moss is like, there's no way I'm taking Chase Brown's going to be the guy. The Bengals are smart. So that paid off for those who took Chase Brown. Now, Jaden Daniels, we all thought he would be good, but we didn't think he would be this good. And if you took a flyer on him like Blake, then you're probably doing well in your fantasy team. And Cade Otton, Blake spoke to him, taking a flyer on him. I took a flyer on him, and I actually drafted him. Again, unbeknownst to me, he was I need a second tight end, Cade Otton, whatever. And I kept him, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my, he's starting to produce. So Cade Otton is, you could argue that he's been the surprise of the year at any position. Would you agree, Blake?
No one saw it coming. No one drafted the guy.
Right.
Jordan Mason, though, there were a lot of people that drafted Jordan Mason, even with CMC out.
Right.
Or being injured going into draft season. Very few drafted him. And if he had just been able to continue on, he would have been a league winner.
Oh, yeah. No question. No question. So those are the players we are thankful for, Fanatics. We hope, again, your Thanksgiving weekend is going well and you've had a lot of turkey. You're on your 5th or 6th plate after yesterday and today. And we're going to get right into our 13. Blake, kick us off. Who you got starting this week?
I can't not do it. Like I'm looking at the lineups and the rankings on Fantasy Pros, and I'm trying to find somebody that's outside of the top 10 that should be, in my opinion, inside the top 10, because the obvious starts are boring, right? So
like mine, like mine's boring, right?
Yours is a lock.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit more risky. In Anthony Richardson, I know, inconsistent. Yep, he had a rough outing against Detroit in Week 12. Yep, he has no Josh Downs this week, but maybe he's figuring it out. I mean, I see a top 10 finish this week. That's what I'm saying. So he's got New England. They've allowed 8 passing touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. Stafford and Tua each had 4 back-to-back weeks, and 4 of the past 5 quarterbacks have scored at least 21 fantasy points against New England. So I know no Josh Downs, but there might be a couple sightings of Alex Pierce to make up for the missing element in Josh Downs, leading to a top 10 finish.
Anthony Richardson. He's like the girl you just can't shake, right? It's like she's beautiful, but something's up with her. But man, I just can't shake her. You know, I want to believe in her, but then something's up, and I can't. And then now I'm back, and it's a love-hate relationship with Anthony Richardson. No question.
We need to jot that down for next year's episodes as a potential segment.
Well, we will do that. The Google Doc will be freshly updated here shortly. So my start of the week is Baker Mayfield. Blake said easy. Why not? Shake and Bake is back, picking up right where he left off against the Giants last week. Now, his stats weren't great. He had 294 passing yards and a touchdown, but demolished the Giants at the Meadowlands. And I expect them to do the same with the Panthers. Now, granted, this is a division game, and the Panthers have been playing well. They gave Kansas City all they can handle last week, but I think they're going to have their hands full against Baker Mayfield, and I think Baker puts up major numbers this week against the Panthers defense. I give the Panthers credit. They've been playing well, but I think Baker's on fire. He's got Mike Evans back. He's got most of the guys healthy, and I expect him to put up some big numbers, especially this week.
I think Tampa as a whole puts up big numbers this week. I think, and we'll touch on that a few times in my in the upcoming segments.
Of course.
Oh, your sit of the week. Come on, man.
That's why I said it. So my sit of the week is Anthony Richardson. Have we ever done that? Had a start and sit? I don't know if we've ever done that. Had a start and then a sit from the same player? Maybe.
I know we started the same player. We sat the same player. I don't know about a combo.
I don't think so either. Well, I'm going to go right to the point. Blake talked about the high ceiling, and I get it. He's got, even against the Pats defense, which he told you has struggled of late. Do you trust Anthony Richardson? Do you really trust Anthony Richardson in terms of getting you points to get you a win that you may need to get in the playoffs? I mean, you're putting a lot of stock in a guy who's been up and down all season, Fanatics. I say you can't. I say another week, another sit for Anthony Richardson. Don't trust him. I'm sticking to it.
Love, hate, baby.
Love, hate. He is. He is our love. He's going to be our love, hate award winner. We got to come up with our the fun they got guys yearly.
So my sit of the week this week, though, is Sam Darnold. He's been playing good the past 2 weeks. You know, he scored 22 or more points in both of those weeks against fairly good defenses. But this week he's got Arizona, who low-key has a really good pass defense. So good that I snagged them off waivers. I like them for the rest of the season. They've got great matchups. If you need a defense, go get them. If they're available, go get them, because no one wants to get them because of their logo and what's traditionally been an Arizona defense the past few years. But they're putting up 10-plus points in most fantasy leagues, and they've got a cake schedule coming up.
Good. All great points.
Right. But back to Sam Darnold, they're going against the top 12 defense who's allowed the 12th fewest points to opposing QBs. Over the past 5 weeks, they haven't allowed a single QB to have more than 16.7 fantasy points, And over the season, they've only allowed 3 quarterbacks to have 20 or more fantasy points. I think the ground game is where Minnesota is going to get their have success. I don't see them doing a ton of passing. So I say sit Sam Darnold this week.
Interesting. Well, I like that. I like the reasoning behind sitting Sam Darnold in terms of what Arizona's defense has been able to do, and not a lot of people know that. There's some good nuggets, Blake. Much appreciated on that. Very good nuggets.
Now, staying in Tampa Bay with your Baker Mayfield pick, my start of the week at running back is Bucky Irving. And it's been a cloudy, crowded backfield this season, but I think Bucky Irving is slowly pulling away with it. He's clearly trusted. They're using him in the running game and in the passing game. Last week, he went 12 for 87 and 1 on the ground and 6 for 64 through the air. This week, as you mentioned, he's got a top-tier matchup in the Panthers, most fantasy points given up to running backs, and throughout the season, 8 running backs have scored 17 or more PPR points. So I also think that White is a RB2/flex worthy play because they're going to use both of them. But I think Bucky Irving gets the first look.
Yeah, he's been a rookie that nobody really saw coming. And the volume of carries he gets and the amount of production he gets in those volumes is really, really good. I mean, 12 for 87 carries is for the 6 to 64 in terms of the passing. He's an all-around back. And you're right about the other, and you're right about the backs in Tampa Bay. I mean, they have 3 good running backs. You got Irving, you got I forgot the gentleman's name. He actually scored a touchdown last week on a 1-yard carry, the other running back. But I think Bucky Irving, to Blake's point, is a great start this week. And speaking of my boy Chuba, I am going with Chuba to start this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, again, over the last couple of 3 games, he's had 4 touchdowns and 283 yards. And he even scored against Kansas City's #1 defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even with Bryce Young in the lineup. So what that tells me is this point forward, you should be starting Chuba Hubbard if you have him in any of your leagues. He's got a favorable matchup against Tampa this week, and he should be getting high volume, and he should be consistent with his. So I say start Chuba this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, if you have success against Kansas City, I think he's, for the most part, matchup proof right now.
Yeah, and there ain't a lot of those out there.
Yep. I mean, you're going to start the Derrick Henrys, the Saquon Barkleys. He's in that the Joe Mixons. He's in that category this season at this point.
Right.
Yeah. I would have never thought he would plunge in for 1 or hit more than 40 yards rushing against Kansas City.
Not in a million years. Not in a million years. So who's your sit this week, Blake?
This one pains me, but it makes sense. It's Brian Robinson Jr. at Washington. I mentioned, he's back from his ankle injury. He practiced Wednesday. He appears to be good to go, and it doesn't look like Eckler's going to get out of concussion protocol. But this doesn't seem like the game to trust Brian Robinson. He's got a Titans defense that's held the past 3 running backs to under 10 PPR points. And these running backs aren't any slouch. J.K. Dobbins, Aaron Jones, and Joe Mixon. All 3 held under 10 PPR points in the past 3 games. Also, what is the extent of the injury for Brian Robinson? He's just coming off the injury. And then B, what if the Commanders ease him back in, knowing they've got a Week 14 bye coming up? So use him a little bit, but not a full workload. So you can play him, but this is not the game that I trust Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you have other options, excuse me, I think you go with those options. If you don't, then obviously you'll have to plug and play him. But yeah, it's just not a good setup. Again, I think he's still hurt. Like he's not 100%. And with Eckler's situation, and there's just a lot of unknowns. So I agree with you, Blake. If I'm going to sit somebody, it's definitely going to be Brian Robinson. And I love him as much as you do in terms of his production. But with the bye opportunity to get healthy, I think you can make a strong to definitely sit him this week. My, I have Christian McCaffrey. Yes, CMC. San Francisco's off. Brock Purdy is pretty much nothing. And I'm not sure what status is this week against the Bills. But actually, Buffalo's defense is pretty good. They've allowed 119 yards rushing per game, which ranks 14. So middle back. But it's for some reason he just doesn't look like himself. Like I watched the game last week, he just doesn't seem like the old CMC all know. And he could still be hurt. It could be a thing of conditioning. It could be whatever. But again, I'm not trusting CMC. San Francisco going all the way across the country to Buffalo, and I think, from what I understand, per the weather, there's snowfall there, so that's going to make for an interesting game. But I am not trusting CMC. You got to play him, but make sure you're tipping your expectations when it comes to Christian McCaffrey this week.
I mean, I would only play him if you have to play him. I think this is a great pick for a number of reasons. If Purdy's out, they had no passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo is great at stopping the pass. They're not great at stopping the run. Their offense or the defense is known to focus on stopping the pass and make you beat them through the run.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't have a passing concern, if San Francisco doesn't have a passing threat, you don't think they're going to load that box, and then you add in the weather element, that you're not going to be able to throw to begin with because of the weather and the quarterback. So this is one where they're going to load the box and stop CMC and make them beat them through the air, I think.
I agree. So again, CMC, it pains me to say that because we know how high he was drafted this year. It's just not been a good year. I mean, every running backs go through this every once in a while. They just don't have a good year. And CMC with the injuries, consistency at quarterback, the injuries on San Francisco's, both sides of the ball. I just don't think this is a good start this week against a pretty good Buffalo defense.
Yep, I agree with you. Speaking of good defenses, my start of the week at wide receiver is going up against what has been known as a very good pass defense in JSN. Another candidate for the breakout at a sophomore campaign, right? He's really turned into the Tyler Lockett replacement that we all expected him to be last year. Now they're starting to use him. He seems to have Gino's eye. He has Gino's trust. He's on a hot streak, and I personally think this continues this week. 19 or more PPR points the past 3 weeks, 7 or more targets the past 4 weeks. But wait, he's facing the Jets, who have allowed the fewest points to wide receivers this season, except for the past 3 games. In the past 3 games, 3 wide receivers have all scored 16 or more fantasy points. I trust JSN this week against what was vaulted Jets defense. What do you think about that pick? Do you think there's anybody you think that's a good pick? Do you trust the Jets? What do you think?
No, so as much as you like my CMC sit, I like your JSN start even more because I have him on a couple of my fantasy teams, and he's the last month he has been ridiculous. And I have DK Metcalf, and I'll get to him in a little bit, but this is a great start, Fanatics. If you're looking for a receiver that's going to get some production, I'm not really worried. I think the Jets are cashing it in. I don't think they want to play the rest of the year. They have to show up, but I just don't see that defense being a threat like they used to be. So I am all in JSN this against the New York Jets. Great pick, Blake. Great pick.
Who's your start of the week?
So my start of the week is A.J. Brown. Again, facing a lackluster Ravens pass defense. Baltimore is allowing the most passing yards per game in NFL this season. Baltimore is one of 8 teams that have allowed passing touchdowns so far in 2020. A.J. Brown is hot. We don't know the status of the Slim Reaper. And I would say if get A.J. Brown going. He's been playing well. And I think he's going to show out against the Ravens defense, as we all know, who's given up some big games to the likes of Jamar Chase and other receivers, they've played. So I expect a big game from A.J. Brown, and he is definitely a start this week for me.
Yeah, Slim Reaper is most likely out. He did not get a practice in on Wednesday. and he's still dealing with the hammy, I would 100% lock and loaded A.J. Brown, top 12 wide receiver for sure this week.
Yep. Especially with how Saquon is running the ball, it's opened up a lot of the passing for Jalen Hurts, and you don't see him making passes like he was, last year because he's got that great ground game. And what that's doing, that's allowing guys like A.J. Brown to maybe not get as many receptions, but to capitalize on the opportunities that they have.
As much as all the industry experts are saying to take the under on the Jalen Hurts passing yards, I think that the over is the smart play. And I think A.J. Brown is going to be a big part of that because as we get to our Sunday six pack, I have a running game that I don't think is going to be as productive this week.
Oh, stay tuned to that one. So go ahead.
I was going to say, moving on to our sits of the week, I see that you still trust the Jets defense.
A little bit.
All right.
So my sit of the week is DK Metcalf, and the only reason I'm sitting him is because of the emergence of JSN. I still think the Jets are pretty good, and I think Sauce Gardner is probably going to be shadowing DK. I just don't think they're consistent, and I don't think they have a second quarter to go along with a second receiver. And then JSN is in the slot anyway. I think that's where the bread is buttered for the Seahawks. So I am sitting DK Metcalf for the simple fact that JSN is hot and Sauce Gardner is going to be covering DK, and I think he's going to struggle a little bit. And honestly, I just think the way the Seattle is passing, JSN's he's the guy. He's the guy now. And DK, while still effective, he gets all the coverage rolled to him, which frees up JSN, and that's why you have the production you've had over the last 3 weeks from JSN.
Yeah, the one piece that still is consistent is Sauce Gardner.
Right.
And you don't want to face Sauce Gardner.
Right. And if Sauce is on DK, I still think DK struggles a little bit, which again opens the door for JSN. Mm-hmm. So as much as I love DK Metcalf and I think he can ball against anybody, I think their focus, if I were the Jets, should be stopping him and then worry about everybody else. So again, I have DK. Am I going to play him? Of course. I'm not expecting a big breakout game. I have JSN. Am I expecting more? 100%.
JSN's going to have a big week, and DK will do well. He's not going to do good or great.
Right.
They're still going to feed him targets.
Yeah.
My sit of the week is Jerry Jeudy. It is he's been on a hot streak with Jameis Winston running the offense. 6+ targets, 12.9 fantasy points per game during that stint. And that's a good thing until this week. And I say that because if Tillman is still out, which it looks like he's going to be still in concussion protocol, Judy's going to have the attention of Pat Surtain Jr. Don't trust him. I wouldn't even put him in your lineup. 3 to 4 receptions at most, 40 yards at most.
Whoa. Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Makes sense to me. Trust me, I'm not touching Jerry Jeudy this after I got all that information. You just said Pat Surtain. That's all I need to hear. And Jerry Jeudy, let's be honest, he hasn't had a great track record when it comes to fantasy. This may be the first year he's been somewhat healthy. Not completely, just somewhat. So yeah, if you're betting on Jerry Jeudy, find somebody else to bet on, folks.
Maybe the unders.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe the unders. Now at tight end, I'm going with a guy that you love, and I think still love, and a guy that I've kind of been like, I see something in him. Well, I'm going with Trey McBride, and what I saw last week, I'm like, okay, this guy's legit. And maybe I wasn't on the Trey McBride bandwagon or train, but I am now. Dominated week 12. He caught 12 of 15 targets for 133 receiving yards last week. Now, Kyler Murray threw a season high 37 times, so I don't expect that to happen. But I expect McBride to have a great week against the Minnesota Vikings and play an important role in the passing game. And Minnesota's 243 passing yards per game, 5th most in the league. So with confidence, I can say Trey McBride should be starting, no question.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Yep.
I'm going back to the well with Cade Otton as my start of the week. And I'm only calling this out because he had a down week last week. Against the defense and the Giants, that's number 2 against tight ends. Plus, they had the return of Mike Evans. So his streak got broken, right? He was having a great streak, and then it got broken. So I'm bringing this up again because some owners might have lost trust in Cade Otton. Do not lose trust. Wait, there's more. This week he has the Panthers. They've allowed the most points to tight ends, including 7 touchdowns to the tight end position in the past 5 games. 7 touchdowns in 5 games. I don't know what his anytime touchdown number looks like this week. I should have looked it up before this episode, but I will be betting it.
Makes sense to me. I mean, again, you know what? I had him last week and he didn't produce for me. And I actually have a guy that you're sitting this week as well, but I'm still trusting Cade Otton. I've trusted him all year. Everybody has 1 or 2 bad games. There's no reason to go away from him now, Fanatics. Again, with the matchup he has, Blake told you how bad Carolina is against the tight end. So I would expect that anytime touchdown number to hit, and also Cade Otton to find his swag back and get back to the numbers he's producing all year.
I'm starting him with a boatload of confidence.
Boatload of confidence.
And I'll take the over on his yards. I don't know what it is. It's probably going to be around 42, 44.
And it's not going to be over 50 usually for a tight end, but I would definitely take those numbers. Now, my sit of the week, I'm going to Cleveland. Blake talked about Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to David Njoku. He was emerging as a key part of Cleveland's passing game, recording at least 60 receiving yards in 3 or 4 games from weeks 7 to 11. However, last week against the Steelers, dropped a touchdown pass and concluded the game with 9 yards on 1 reception. Now, again, was the weather a factor? Sure. Doesn't, snowing, big time, Cleveland, whatever. I still don't trust him heading into week 13 against Denver. And even he doesn't have 5 targets at all, but 1 of the games this year. But I think Denver matches up well with Cleveland in terms of their defense against Cleveland's offense. I think they're going to pressure Jameis. I think they're going to put him in 3rd and long situations. And I think their focus, knowing Jeudy is going to be taken care of, has to be in Njoku because he's probably their 2nd best receiver, maybe their best receiver. Mm-hmm. So I say sit in Njoku against Denver's defense this week.
I don't think Jameis is going to have a whole lot of luck. But wait till we get to our survivor picks.
Can't wait.
That's right.
I can't wait.
So I really struggled with my tight end sit of the week. I went through the top 12 and I'm looking at the matchups and trying to understand, what they've done so far. My sit of the week is TJ Hawkinson, and I don't love it. He's rewarded fantasy owners that chose to draft him and hold on to him because he's on the season for the games he's played. He's the tight end 9 in fantasy points per game. Like my sit of the week at QB, though, sitting Hawkinson is solely around the matchup. He's still a top 15 tight end in my estimation, but I wouldn't expect a big game from him. Arizona is good against tight ends. They're 6th fewest fantasy points per game allowed to the tight end position, 8th fewest yards to the tight end position, and 11th fewest receiving yards total to the tight end position. So I just don't see a blow-up game from him this week. I understand if you have to put him in your lineup. There weren't a lot of good tight end sits from my perspective in the top 10 ranks.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough call. I actually have Hawkinson and Cade Otton on one of my teams, and I am not playing Hawkinson for clear reasons. But I can see in terms of the numbers and Arizona's defense. Again, you talked about them with sneaky defense. If you need one for their stretch run the next couple of weeks. And looks like obviously they do a pretty good job against the tight end. So I'm not going to go against the numbers because the numbers are the numbers. And it says, hey, Cade Otton, start TJ Hawkinson. So pretty self-explanatory.
I'm with you. Now let's just jump right into survivor picks because talking Denver, Cleveland, that's my caution pick of the week. Denver over Cleveland. They're favored by 5.5. 68% win odds, And they're the 10% popular pick this week. My question, though, is which Cleveland team shows up? The one that beat Pittsburgh and Baltimore, or the one that got smoked by the Saints?
Right.
And I'm not willing to risk it, and I would advise that you don't risk it either.
I would agree. Yeah, Cleveland's a crapshoot. I mean, they're just up there, Cleveland. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. They're just Cleveland. So they're going to give you moments. They're going to give you moments where you're like, oh, they're not good. And then they're going to give you moments like, man, this team's pretty good. And good luck riding that roller coaster, folks. It
doesn't make sense to me either, but no. I'm not willing to risk it and find out. That's not, if you're still in a survivor pool, that's some dangerous waters to play in my opinion.
No question.
Some safer options would include Tampa Bay over Carolina. If you still have them available, this is a lock. They're favored by 6, 69% win probability, and they are the most popular pick of the week at 21%. And I realize it's a division matchup. I realize Carolina's playing better football, but this is a lock. Mike Evans is back. Their ground game is secure and will dominate the Panthers. Their tight end matchup is gravy, and Mayfield continues to perform.
Agreed. I think, again, regardless, again, at this point, we talked about at some point, you can't follow all the rules, even at the division matchups. At some point, you're going to have to pick a division game at some point. So if you're going to pick one, this is probably one you're going to want to pick. I think Tampa rolls over Carolina this week. I don't see any way, shape, or form Carolina hangs in there with Tampa.
Invest that offense. Invest in Tampa Bay.
Exactly. I'm going to go right to my caution pick. I'm going to take a page out of your book, Blake. So caution pick this week, and this one is near and dear to my heart. Steelers over the Bengals. Yes, we are Bengals fans, Blake and I. Yes, we have seen our fair share of Steelers-Bengal games, mostly on the losing end, but the Bengals are coming off the bye, and the Steelers have had 2 tough matchups against the Ravens and the Browns. Physical, tough, AFC North type of football. How much do the Steelers have left in the tank? The Bengals should be refreshed. They should be, and quite frankly, they should be pissed off because they should be better than their 4-7 record. Let's be honest here. I'm just saying this could be another classic Steelers-Bengals game. And let's hope, Blake, let's hope the good guys win this time. Can we, please?
I don't know if Pittsburgh has enough firepower to keep up.
I agree.
I love this pick. I don't think Pittsburgh has enough firepower.
I agree. Well, we'll see on Sunday. So my safe pick is a game that's probably going to start here shortly. So I'll get it in real quick. It's Kansas City over Vegas. Yes, I know, as Blake said, with his Tampa over Carolina's division game, but remember last year's loss at home, and they take care of business against the Raiders and Desmond Ridder. Yes, UC fans, that Desmond Ridder, who is starting quarterback for the Vegas Raiders. I don't see any way, shape, or form the Raiders hanging in this game. I think the Chiefs dominate.
That's easy.
Yep. I kept them easy this week. I didn't really go off the cuff too much.
No. But if they followed my advice last week and my safe pick, they don't have Kansas City left anyway. So getting it in 45 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah.
But at this point, I do have a question for you, Jason.
What's that?
What's the best way to start off your Sunday?
Bubbly. Listen to that bubbly. Tastes so good when it hits your lips, buddy.
It sure does, man. Our Sunday 6-pack bets of the week.
You're up.
All right, I'll lead us off. Bucky Irving, Saquon Barkley, and Bryce Young as a teaser. Bucky Irving over 2.5 receptions. I don't see how this is a lock or not a lock. I'm putting this in, and I'll probably make this a couple units. In fact, Irving just came off a game with 6 receptions. Over the past 4 games, he has had 3 or more in every single game. Carolina has allowed running backs 6 or more receptions in 3 of the past 4 weeks. The Broncos running backs had 6 in week 8. The Saints running backs had 7 in week 9. And the Chiefs running backs had 6 in week 12. They did, however, hold the Giants running backs to only 2 in week 10, and then week 11 was a bye. So 3 of the past 4 weeks, Carolina has allowed running backs to have 6 or more receptions. Bucky Irving has had 3 or more in the past 4 games and just came off one with 6. Lock and loaded. Bet number 2, Saquon Barkley, and this one hurts. Under 93.5 rushing yards. This is tough. He is dog all season long. He's covered that 93.5 in 8 of 11 games this year, but this is the first great run defense they faced. And looking back, the only other stiff competition was Tampa Bay. They have not faced a good run defense yet. Baltimore is a top run defense, allowing a total of 78 adjusted rushing yards per game to NFL or to opposing teams. That's number 2 in the NFL. The Eagles are 3-point underdogs, which if you look at the points and Vegas lines, that indicates a higher dose of passing from the Eagles offense and not as much running. So I like the Barkley under 93.5.
Ooh.
It's tough.
That is tough. I applaud you, man. That is tough.
But I'll tell you, that 93.5, the 3 games he didn't cover that, 2 of which were like not even close.
Well under. Oh, yeah. We're talking, what, 60 yards maybe? We're
60,
talking
40, and 78 or something.
We're talking under. Wow. Okay.
Now I'm putting some stock. I'm going back to Carolina and Tampa Bay, and I'm saying Bryce Young over 204.5 passing yards.
Do tell.
Since his return to the lineup and the change in the offensive approach, Bryce Young's looked different. Last week against the Chiefs, 263 yards with a 60% completion percentage and a 92.9 passer rating. The Chiefs aren't only good at stopping the run, they're also a good pass defense. This week he's got the Bucks, and you know the Buccaneers are going to score points on Tampa or on Carolina. This is going to force Bryce Young to throw the ball, which in my opinion is a good thing. They are bottom 3 or the bottom 3rd in all pass defending categories. Tampa Bay is bottom 3rd. And they just allowed Tommy DeVito and the Giants to pass for 189 yards. So the way Bryce Young's playing with the new offensive approach, I cover 204.5. I might even go at 225 and get a positive and try and screw Vegas over.
Wow. Ooh. Man, you got the Barkley under. Ooh, man. I can't wait to see what these bets look like. So usually, folks, I'll do either anytime touchdowns or overs. I did do that on my last bet, but my 2 bets this week are spreads. So my first one is the Vikings getting 3.5 Cardinals. As well, Blake said, he's sitting Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is playing a little bit better than he was the last couple weeks. The Cards travel to Minnesota after a tough road game against Seattle. I just think that's too much to ask to play in those tough environments. And what do the Vikings fans say, Blake? Have you ever seen a Vikings game? Skull. Yeah. Give me the Vikings in the 3.5 points this week against Arizona Cardinals.
Okay.
The points. Now, my other point spread is the Texans, 4.5 points, 4.5 point favorites over the Jags. Houston's coming off an embarrassing loss against the Titans at home. Now they get to go to Jacksonville, play the Jags coming off the bye. Now, the Jags aren't good, and the Texans need this win so bad before they head into their bye week. C.J. Stroud's not playing great, not playing as good as he did last year, but that changes this week. Give me the Pistons in 4.5 points. 4.5. Vegas may know something.
So you're saying who's
Go ahead.
favored here? The Texans or the Jags?
The Texans.
Oh, so you're saying they're going to cover 4.5?
They're going to cover 4.5. Yes, they're going to.
Now, what about the Vikings? Use the term over. Are you saying the Vikings are favored by 3.5 or the Cards are?
I'm sorry, the Vikings are favored. Yes.
Okay, so you
I'm
think
saying
Vikings cover 3.5 and the Texans cover 4.5. Okay. Yep.
exactly. And then going back to the Philly Baltimore game, I have Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry both anytime touchdown scores. Now I know Blake, in terms of the yardage, they might, but I was against that Raven run defense, at least one touchdown, and then scores against Philly's defense. To your point, the unders may be in play here for both running backs, but I think both running backs the end zone this week. So anytime touchdown scores, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, which in that game should be an awesome game to watch. I'm looking forward to that one.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if Henry hits the over, because Philly's run defense is not as good as
True.
everyone thought they were, because they hadn't played any solid running competition.
Correct.
So I think Derrick Henry is going to get his.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a great game. Two of the best running backs in the league. I mean, when have we said that? Like we're looking forward to a game that the two best players on their teams are both running back. Well, arguably the two best players. You can make a case for Lamar, obviously, but there's going to be focus on the running backs. We don't get games like that anymore.
Nope.
Which is going to be interesting. Yep.
It has been a few years.
Yeah. Oh, no question. So lastly, my college bet, which I haven't been doing the last couple of weeks, I'll be honest with you. So this week, I'm going to keep it in the state of Ohio, Blake. It's Thanksgiving weekend, a lot of rivalry games in college football, the last really week of college football. So I am taking this bet 90 miles, Blake, Columbus, Ohio, and in the game. Ohio, Michigan is the reigning national champion. We all know that. Again, you can make an argument of how they got there, legit or not legit. We're not going to go into that for Ohio State fans. But this year's Michigan team is 6-5, Blake, 6-5. And OSU is 10-1, only losing to the Oregon Ducks in a great game early in the year. The spread is 19.5. So Ohio State is favored by 19.5. That's a lot, especially in a rivalry game, which usually means these games are going to be close. Well, folks, not this year. The Buckeyes are going to destroy the Wolverines. The simple fact is Ohio State has more talent. Now, they pay in terms of $21 million. We won't talk about that. But Michigan is down and they have no quarterback. So give me Ohio State to cover the 19.5-point spread against the Michigan Wolverines. I don't see how this game is close, Blake, at all.
Jason, tell the folks, are you an Ohio State fan and you're being a homer here?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I am not an Ohio State fan. I am the contrary. I'm not. When that game is played, I just sit back and watch both fan bases go crazy over one another, which is actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me. So I'm not a Buckeye fan, not even close. So this is not me being a homer. This is not being all in on Ohio State. This is me looking at both teams and realizing Ohio State's lost the last two games. And if they don't beat Michigan this year, if they somehow lose this game, oh my, I can't even imagine what will happen to Ryan Day. So yeah. I don't think they're just going to win. I think they're going to destroy. I'm talking like if it's fourth quarter and they got a chance to score a touchdown with a minute left, they score a touchdown. I think it's going to be that type of game. So give me the Buckeyes and the 19.5-point spread against Michigan in the game this weekend.
I might have to look at that.
That's a lot.
I don't bet on college football, but that one sounds fairly promising.
It's a lot. Like I went back and forth. I was like, no way. Like I'm gonna get a Buckeyes credit. Their team is so much better than Michigan. They really should destroy, rivalry or no rivalry, destroy Michigan. I mean, if they destroyed Indiana beat Michigan. So what does that tell you? I mean, in theory, they should destroy Michigan, but we'll see. That's why they play the game.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been good. Unfortunately, this week I do not have a fun fact. This will be the first week we've gone without one. I just couldn't put one together.
Hey, the fun fact is, we ate a lot of turkey and we had a great Thanksgiving. There's nothing wrong with that, buddy. That's a fun fact. I mean, for me, I can't speak for everybody, but I had a great Thanksgiving and looking forward to watching some more football today, tomorrow, and Sunday. And looking forward to my teams making a run in the playoffs. I will say my teams have gotten hot over the last few weeks, Blake, and I'm excited about the prospects of making the playoffs.
Yeah, man. Hopefully, if you need a defense, you took that advice and go scoop up Arizona.
I'm going to take your advice, buddy. I'm going to call it. I'm going to take Arizona's defense. I appreciate that.
I mean, even if it's just a 1 week plug and play, their matchups across the board are juicy.
I am going to heed your word, buddy.
Good deal. All right, man. Let's wrap this up.
Let's do it. Social media, we're still out there, folks.
Not as my brother actually Christmas or at Thanksgiving yesterday was like, I haven't seen much from you guys on social media lately. You haven't been posting. I'm like, yeah, I know, but we are still there.
Hey, sometimes life gets in the way, fanatics.
It does.
Yep. So we're on all the platforms: Facebook, IG, YouTube. Again, send us a message. We still are out here. Want to comment? Want to give us some controversial picks? Some things you're looking forward to in terms of the playoffs, what have you. We are out there, and we would love to hear from you, the fantasy universe out there. And again, just another way to communicate with us. And, we're excited about the upcoming playoffs, and we want to make sure that we get you guys and ladies ready for the playoff run.
That's right. And we have figured out how to get the chat working on our YouTube live. So if any of you are crazy enough to hop on and join us, we will get the notifications.
And that just happened. That's hot off the presses, right, Blake?
That's right.
Well, fanatics, that's a wrap for this episode of the Sunday Funday Guys Fantasy Football Podcast. And fanatics, remember to make this Sunday your fun day. Sunday Funday Guys out. It stopped. Yeah.